So as we could see, there was many. I would imagine, Melanie, you talk about the civil suits to this. The
I have
civil
so many things
suits.
to say right now.
Well, oh, go ahead, Melanie. I'll let you. You go
I
ahead.
have so many
Speak.
things to say, and I'm going to say what everybody's thinking, at least in the
Go
chat,
ahead.
and what I'm thinking as a mother, as someone who's not trained as a police officer. I have a lot of things to say about this. Number one, the radios that these guys had sucked. I watched the testimony. Their radios sucked. Everybody knew it. He had to go outside to talk on that radio to try and get some comms because he couldn't get comms. That's number one. Number two, he did not run to his car to get a vest like a lot of the other guys did. He stood there and he waited. Number three, it took this disgusting Nicholas Cruz killer somewhere between 4.5 minutes and 6 minutes to kill 17 people. If he had gone into the building, would the outcome have been different? It may have already been done by that time. So to prosecute this guy criminally is, I don't know, as a mother, it even shocks me. I mean, this guy knew these students. He loved them. He, there's a difference between a legal duty and a moral duty. Okay. Just because somebody may have a moral duty to do something doesn't mean that you can throw them in jail for 100 years because they didn't do something. And also, civil cases for wrongful death may be successful against him. I just think it was a big overreach. It was a huge, huge risk to do this. And the optics are just bad. And I feel bad for the guy. I watched the testimony and I genuinely think, and I'm not a trained police officer, as you know, he may not have known where those shots were coming from. There were multiple buildings and echoes and, I don't know. I feel bad for the guy. That's all I'm going to say. I'll stop now.
That's a lot of really heartfelt information you just gave out. But now I'm going to bring in a heartless guy. Mike,
thank you, Bill.
Well, what are your thoughts on this, being a heartless police officer? How do you feel about this?
I thought what Melanie said was excellent. In fact, the distinction between a moral duty to act and a legal duty to act is a huge, wide chasm. And I talk to this about my students. Just because something seems wrong doesn't mean it's legally wrong, and not in all kinds of cases. So we know that the law wasn't really exact as to what his status was as a caregiver, and so we do know that overall that police do not have a specific duty to act to save a particular person unless some sort of special relationship has formed. Like, for instance, if you take into custody an abused child, you have to make sure that they get proper medical care, that sort of thing. As an officer, you think of those child abuse cases you handled, you have to make sure they get proper medical care. Beyond that, you're not responsible for what happens to them afterwards. But, so no special relationship existed. He was not considered a caregiver under Florida state law. Look, and I just want everybody in the chat room to realize that, all he had to do was actually go into that building. He might not have been able to save even one person, but he didn't investigate what building. Like, I didn't see him run from one building to another, or even walk from one building to another. And that's what is disturbing to me as an officer. I remember working in the Bronx, working in Manhattan with and Billy, my partner Augie in the Bronx, where many calls running into buildings, shots fired from the roof, shots fired at the third floor apartment, and you don't get a lot of information. And you go there, you just take out your firearm, you and your partner, you do the best you possibly can under the circumstances. You don't know what's going to happen. You do the best you can. And I think for his best that day was lacking. And therefore, everyone and the children paid the ultimate price for his lack of ability that day. But all he had to do was move, and he didn't move. So I have to fault him. And I think that his punishment is going to be, like you say, living with that knowledge that he didn't do anything to try to save those children.
And Mike, I don't really believe that you're heartless.
Thank you, Billy.
I just was trying to add a little levity to this.